And joining us now to discuss this further is our international affairs correspondent, Batya Leventhal. Batya, thank you so much for joining us. First, let's just go right to the statement coming from the big three. How serious of a claim is this, or how serious of a warning can we take from there?
It's quite interesting because the big three here, we're talking about both Britain, France and Germany, seem to sort of be caught in the middle between the United States and Iran, who really are sort of the major players, these European countries in the middle. So it's interesting to see that only a couple of days, I mean, this Natanz incident happened on Sunday, and the question was, where is, the EU response or the European response to what was going on? They were relatively mute on that situation, and it's only coming out now, a couple of days later, of them actually taking a stand once Iran is now seriously breaching or in another violation of the original deal. So this is quite an interesting response coming out now. It's normally the United States and Iran that are sort of a tit-for-tat move, but now you've got the European powers saying, hang on a second, something is not right with this. And you can see sort of the shift in optimism from where these talks began a week ago in Vienna to where they are now, which, as you mentioned, is a relatively awkward sort of situation.
Right. And how serious really is this breach, and how might it impact these talks that are really set to kick off again tomorrow?
Well, what's quite interesting is to look at those numbers. Now, according to the original deal, Iran was only allowed to enrich uranium at 3.67%. Now, that number doesn't sound like anything unless you explain exactly what it is. So between 3 and 4% is what they enrich for fuel, nuclear fuel. Now, Iran, when they started breaching the deal in 2018, once the US pulled out of it under Donald Trump, started pushing that up to about 20%. So definitely a significant step upwards, but still relatively low. Now that they're planning on pushing to 60%, they're getting closer to the 90%, which is a weapons-grade material, which is what Israel has been warning about, Iran possibly having a bomb. So this warning coming out of Iran, and at the moment it does seem to be more of a warning. They haven't just yet started enriching that uranium to 60%. But it is a very strong warning, and it's definitely going to have a very severe impact on where these talks are going to follow.
And Batya, briefly, the U.S. for now hasn't chimed in. How might we expect the U.S. to react, or how might this affect the U.S. strategy?
I do think there's going to be quite a big rebuke from the United States. And the reason that I say that is because part of the deal that they're now meeting in Vienna is to look at the U.S. sanctions being pulled off Iran, and Iran going back to complete compliance. The fact that they are now breaching just another part of this deal is sort of sending a signal to Iran, we're not interested in coming to the table and sorting out this deal, even though that is the point of the talks in Vienna. It doesn't really seem that that is what's happening on the ground. It's more sabotage in the talks than it is actual diplomacy.
Right. Certainly a lot at stake here. Batya Leventhal, thank you so much for joining us on that issue.